It's 5, so we can get started. I'll introduce myself and then Paulina can introduce herself, and then we can kind of get going from there. My name's Steve Smith. I'm pleased to be guiding you through this journey of machine learning and cybersecurity. This is the second time I've taught this class. I completely rewrote it after what I learned last time, so hopefully it's beneficial. I'm trying to distill down what we're talking about and do less talking and more doing, and hopefully that works for you. Um, I'm a open guy. I don't know everything. If there's people on this call that probably know more about topics than I do, feel free to jump in. I think we all benefit from your experience, so don't feel free to or feel free to jump in and add. I think it adds to the context of the class. We all learn something. Everybody's got something to bring to the table. We all have different experiences in different companies and different jobs and situations and stuff like that. We can learn from each other. So I want this to be as interactive as possible. And don't feel bad if we need to stop and explain something in a little bit more detail. If there's stuff that you want to see that we don't talk about, let me know. I'll see if I can incorporate it into another lesson or office hours or something like that. But I want to make sure everybody gets the most they can out of this. Um, this is a lot of different things. It's not a cybersecurity class, but it's about cybersecurity. And it's not a machine learning class, but we're going to talk about machine learning and AI and how those things intersect and what the implications are for cybersecurity. Um, the biggest thing that we have to deal with is scope, and scope means toil, especially as far as analysis goes. And for anybody who's ever done any hunting or log analysis or big data related to security, you know how daunting it can be. And we're going to try and talk about some tools and techniques that will let you hopefully prototype things, do proof of concepts, and you know have something to discuss as far as operationalizing and also understanding how tools work. Had a conversation with somebody and they said, "Oh, you can just get that in a platform." Well, you can get it in a platform, but it's the old question of are they looking at the right things? Are they talking about the right vulnerabilities? Are they your vulnerabilities? So we'll have some discussion about that as well. All right. So that's me. I've been doing this for 40 years now. I'm somewhere between employed and retired, and I'm doing this because I want to try and pass on what I've learned over the course of the years. I still do consulting and contract work, full-time jobs, whatever. But I'm really trying to take what I've learned and pass it on. So that's kind of about me. Paulina?
Hi there, can you hear me okay? All right. So I already know a few of you because we did a little introduction meeting last during the week, earlier this week. So I was just giving everyone the pointers on how to sign into class, how to submit assignments, and letting them know that they can reach out to me if they need any assistance. I will be joining the live sessions in case anything happens or you need anything, Stephen. And of course, my main role is to guide students whenever they need anything from Elevator.
All right, awesome. So you're the person that has all the answers and you do all the work, right?
Yes,
That's your job description. All right,
you
cool.
have fun and I do the work.
I like that. Okay, so and again, this is interactive. Stop if you got questions. You can direct message me or you have my email. So if you don't want to put something in Discord, feel free to shoot me an email. And I'm here to make sure that you get what you think you should be getting out of this course. It's not what I think, it's what you think, and that's important, and I want to hear it from you. Okay, so this is about me. It's kind of embarrassing almost to have this fancy picture and all this text, but I started out when there really wasn't any security or networking. I found article in a newspaper from 1993 where I'm talking about how we're going to connect to data sources and libraries with modems and how that's going to be fantastic. And here we are, 30 some odd years later with, the cloud and everything else. And things really have transformed a lot. And I've been fortunate to kind of be part of that. Most recently, I was with Amazon. I was the application security lead for Project Kuiper, where I was there through the first launch of our low Earth orbit satellites, and that was pretty cool. I worked for Google Cloud for the Cloud CISO office for a few years doing cloud security. That was a different take on cloud security than my previous job at Microsoft. I've been a blue team lead there. I've been an incident responder. I've been a security engineer. I've been a CISO, a little bit of everything. So I guess the breadth of my experience and the depth of some things gives me some perspective, hopefully, that will be useful as we have this discussion. But I can honestly say how many people get to launch an ISP into space? I did it. So that's pretty cool. That's beyond the cloud. Uh, that's kind of all my back patting, pat myself on the back for having a great career. I've been pretty lucky, but I've learned a few things. I've gotten to work with some pretty amazing people, and hopefully what I've been able to draw from them, I'll be able to explain and help guide you through, and you can take away some lessons learned from, my past. I am kind of an interesting, technical slant business person. So I go from, what's possible to how do we make it happen. And, I've done a lot of interesting stuff. I've been on the Windows security team. We invented trustworthy computing, was there for launch of Azure. The beginnings of AI, the debacle with Tay and some of the other stuff. I was at Microsoft for that. Seen some interesting things as far as incident response, advanced persistent threat, nation state actors, all kinds of interesting stuff. I've got some stories I'll tell. And, hopefully some of y'all will share your experiences too. I'm sure at some point we've all had interactions with the same adversaries. And I like to compare notes. All right, this is Paulina's backpatting bio here because she's so fantastic. But she's really the person that makes this all work. So if you need anything, please call her. I will do my best to help everybody as far as support with platforms and with Zoom and things like that, Discord. Uh, the one thing that I hope we take away from this class is we're going to be try to become self-sufficient in machine learning and AI, right? It used to be you needed a master's in data science and a programming background and things like that to do machine learning. But with the rise of LLM, it's democratized that. So if you are good at writing prompts and you can figure out how to take what the LLM gives you and adapt it to your needs, you can do some pretty fantastic stuff. And we'll show some examples of that. And hopefully by the end of this, you guys will be able to, take a log file, go in and do run through machine learning on it, and then, get actual results and that you can present to people and show them what's going on, as opposed to doing things like I did for years with SQL and spreadsheets and dashboards and stuff like that. It's a heck of a lot easier to do now. So we'll come up with some ways to do that. Here's just some ground rules for the class. Chan, I see your hands up.
Yeah, so my hand's up because you had mentioned that this course is centered around being self-sufficient, doing the prompt writing, the LLMs, and looking at the syllabus. We're really kind of touching things at a core level and building it. Throughout this course, do you anticipate pooling some connections between what this looks like when we're applying it to a pre-built solution, like with what Microsoft is doing with their AI stuff or
Yeah,
anything like
and
that.
this will help you understand some of that, but it also gives you the ability to. So when I did this course last time, it was more centric on a platform. We used Elastic a lot, and I thought that it detracted from the explanation of what was really going on. So what I'm trying to do is break it down a little bit further, so conceptually we understand what's going on under the covers. So when they talk about a model that they're using or how they're detecting outliers and stuff like that, we have a better understanding of it. And as with all things, I think with AI, there's the rise of the black box. It's like we've had appliances throughout the history of time. Every technological evolution is like another season of Silicon Valley, right? Where we end up in an appliance. And the appliance, if you understand how it works, or you can question how it's being used, it's more effective than just, it's like back in the old days when we had IDS, right? And we put it in and they gave us all the pre-built filters and we got all the alerts in our queue and we had to go through and triage them. Or, and a lot of it was garbage and wasted time. I think that's one of the challenges with, just accepting the black box and turning on the default. So hopefully we'll go into that in enough depth that we can start having those conversations. Ask your black box vendor, so how do you tune your hyperparameters for your algorithms, right? And we're going to be able to have that kind of discussion because and you'll see this too as you're generating code with LLMs, is they'll give you a default hyperparameter, but it might not work with a large data set. And I can show you an example of that as well. But it's basically, we have to know what questions to ask because if you give me a pre-tuned solution and you have it set for the most extreme case and I have a smaller data set, maybe I'm missing something, right? Maybe I want to look at something deeper, and hopefully this is going to give you the tools to be able to do that, and where to go find them. Because I think the thing that's really exciting about where we're at now is, you can go and work through, if you ask good questions of an LLM, and work through all the different problems. Like I set up a Jupyter notebook and I pulled some code together and it wasn't working. And I had to go through and debug it. And I was able to ask the LLM, hey, I see this error in the code. And it wrote bad code, but I had to be able to go back and ask it to fix it and not turn it into spaghetti. So we can talk about some strategies around that as well, because I think that's one thing that is a challenge, especially with stuff like vibe coding, is you get spaghetti code, right? And what I think the skill we want to be able to develop here is to be able to go through and work through a problem with LLM and not end up with spaghetti code, or to go in and edit the code so it works properly. And it's a journey, but I think once we get into it, especially with the tools that are available now, like Anaconda has a built-in LLM right in the notebook as you're working through the code, that can be super helpful. So we'll talk about all this stuff, but it's when I did this class last year, the code, the LLMs weren't generating as good a code, and it was super painful, right? But now we're getting higher quality results, especially with like Claude, I think has really taken a big step forward there, that you can actually get an almost functional solution out of it that with a little bit of tweaking is something that you can use. So it's pretty cool. Sorry, I got sidetracked, but great question.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it because, like, basically what you're saying too is you're enabling us to tell the difference between when a black box vendor, lack of a better term, right, is trying to
Yep.
upsell us versus what their tool is actually capable of, right? Because I'm sure some of us who are in a position of making those decisions and acquiring those technologies, that'll be really important. Because if we fall for an upsell, then we have to deal with that aftermath.
Yeah,
Totally.
it is. The answer has always, I think the answer always people try and do the black box sale, right? Because it's easier to understand and you don't have a bunch of messy pieces and you can just plug it in and start getting results, right? And if we're able to ask better questions about that kind of stuff and find out really where they're coming from, it gives you a better detector for any sort of marketing speak or lack of clarity about what the solution actually does. So I think in that respect, this should be super helpful. Okay, so one piece of feedback I got from the last time I ran through this was we're spending too much time talking. I talk and talk and talk, and I don't want to do that this time. I'm going to try and be more succinct and to the point and presenting topical information, but I will warn you, sometimes we're going to run over. We may run, I give that 15 minutes for Q&A at the end. That may be me trying to finish my thoughts on a concept. But I want to make this more digestible. And again, feedback I got from last time was it was like a fire hose. So I'm trying to dial it back to something that is useful. I know this is end of day for everybody, sometimes into the evening, depending on where you are in the world. So let's use our time wisely, get in, get the information, ask questions, and get done, because we all have to go to work tomorrow. We're gonna assignments. Even though we do have a deadline, Paulina, plug your ears. I will always accept your assignments. I know that we all have lives and we all get busy, and I want you to get credit for the work that you've done. So please do the assignments. If you can't get it in on time, I understand, and I don't grade on a curve or there's no deduction. If you get it in, you get the points for it. Office hours, I'll be around for 30 minutes afterwards if needed. You can schedule time with me also if you want to have a one-on-one discussion. And then we have the Discord channel, which I think everybody has discovered. I try and monitor that. And I do check my emails, so let me know if you have questions. And also, Paulina is here to assist as well. If you need something urgently and you don't hear from me, reach out to Paulina. Okay, so I see some hands raised. John.
Yeah, two quick. Sorry, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, hi. So with this knowledge that we are gaining from this classroom, um, do you think that once we get the skills from the class, do you think that we will be required to during for interviews, right? Because some of us don't, I don't have the Python experience. I've never had to do the Python experience or, programming, coding, etc. Do you think that the interviews will ask us in most jobs to, with AI security,
Some
will ask us to
engineering
build and
jobs,
code something?
it depends. I'm always upfront with people about coding. I'm like, I used to tell them I coded in Stack Overflow, but now I tell people I code in Plod, to be honest. And usually I don't think I've ever had an interview where I had to code in all the years, because I'm always upfront with people.
For like AI ethics policy, there are jobs now called prompt engineering, job titles called the AI ethics job titles. Like you haven't had anyone be requested to code for an assessment during an interview yet?
Nope. Well, but I'm at a different place in my career. I won't say it's beyond the realm of possibility, but you need to be upfront with people, and we can talk about this some more. There's a strategy that I have started using where you can ask an LLM what kinds of questions would get asked around topics based on a job description, and it gives you, and it can give you a guide of kind of where you should go and study. But I think that if you're not a coder, that you need to be upfront with people about kind of where your skill set lies at. You know, you can say, yeah, with the assistance of an LLM, I can go through and I can take a log file and I can open it up and I can do, you know, basic discovery and things like that in it. And we'll show you how to do that. And
That one
the
disqualify us from positions?
I
That's
think
just for my own concern.
it depends on what people are looking for. I think it's good to be able to code a little bit and then to be upfront with people about what little bit you code in. I'm fairly proficient in things like SQL from doing years of data analysis, and I could probably pass a coding interview in SQL. But if I had to do a coding interview in Python, I'd be in trouble, right? And that's what I tell people is you know, if I do Python, I use the tools that are available to me, which is what employers are going to. If anybody has looked at the job market lately and seen what it has done to like entry-level developers, that's why, is because people are able to use LLM now to generate code. Now, the thing I will tell you is the code that you generate with an LLM, you have to hack your way through it and make it work. I've spent, I don't know how many hours on the examples, making them the best that they can be, because LLM, it does code, but it has some funky things that it does, and then there's errors, right? So the skill is, can you generate a prompt and feed it data that results in code that you can go through and debug and make run, right? So it's a different skill set than being able to write code.
And there's different platforms that they list on those, a lot of the job description. They list PyTorch, TensorFlow, they list, you know, the Java.
Yep, and it's interesting, and we'll talk about all that, because I have generated Java apps. I'm not a Java developer. I could debug Java, and I created Python code that runs TensorFlow and does image analysis. So I'm doing this right now, and I think maybe the question is, right, what do you need to do to be able to do that? So it's and we'll talk about this as we go, but it's really anymore, you're probably not going to code as an entry-level developer, but you can say, hey, I went through and did this. You'll learn some Python doing this, but you're not going to be a Python developer. And we're going to learn some stuff about security, but it's not about security. So it's a class that's about the intersection of a bunch of different things. And how do you, as a practitioner, take advantage of all that and put something together that can solve a problem? And that's really, it's from using the tools at your disposal to craft a solution or a proof of concept. So I hopefully that answered your question. That was kind of long-winded.
No, I have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so you said that this class is about
Coming from the scene as I see it.
Sorry.
My husband's close
Oh,
friend looks like
you said the intersection of many different things to solve many different problems. Can you give some
the midnight swim in concrete shoes. That's how it works in the movies, right?
There's something.
Did we lose audio?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yep.
To
Sorry.
hear you now.
Yep.
Yeah, I can
Right.
hear you.
Yeah, I didn't get the last question. There was some background noise. So is that you, Paul?
I was just asking, can you give an example of the many different things to solve many different problems? Can you be more specific on the things that we're using and the kind of problems we'll be solving?
So we'll be doing things like how would you go through and analyze keywords in Windows logs looking for patterns, right? You could go through and you could search like a term at a time, like Mimikatz or something like that, or you could do a word cloud. So we'll uh, we'll do things like that. Um, what is the effect of poisoning an image for image identification? So learning how some of this stuff works, and I guess problems that you would be solving are how what here's a question that I've seen asked a bunch of times, like is what does normal behavior look like on the network, and what anomalies should I be looking for? We had a case where we found an advanced persistent threat in our environment based on search volume and keyword usage, right? So how can you find an adversary based on signals in your network? And what we learned from that is the first thing that happens when somebody gets access to your network is they go and they start searching for stuff. How can you tell if an account has been compromised and it's exhibiting pivoting behavior while you're doing an investigation, right? You could look at logs and answer those kinds of questions with some of the techniques that we're going to be discussing here. So but the thing is that there's a difference between looking at a sample of information and building a solution that scales to the enterprise. A lot of the stuff that we're talking about here is for your understanding, and it's also so you can do experiments and maybe do some hunting and research, and then be able to go ask questions and get things implemented at a larger scale that will help detect some of the behaviors, perhaps. So it's a basis of knowledge, and it's also how to use the different tools and libraries and things in Python, and how do you get data in and exhibit results and things like that. So some of the basics around that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, the tools and the platforms that we'll be using, are those free open source platforms? Do we have to like pay for like a premium AI tool? The tools that you want us to use to complete the assignments. What tools?
So
I think Anaconda is one of those I was sent an
yep,
email.
Anaconda has a free tier. Um, what happens is at some certain point you use up too many tokens for the LLM, and it'll put you on pause. But you have to ask it a lot of questions and ask it to write a lot of code that it probably won't get to that level with us. I pay for the pro plan in Anaconda. It's like $15 a month. And I also pay for Claude. It's like $20 a month. And for me, I think it's a good investment because I do enough stuff that I exhaust my free resources. So what I would suggest is try it with the free tier. And if you find yourself at a point where you're continually exhausting like your free LLM usage, you might have to invest in the pro plan. But they're really reasonable. It's not a huge expense.
Do we have to invest in, so I know for like creating portfolios, do we need to like invest in like GitHub or GitLab? I don't know which one it's that people use.
We're going to be using GitHub because I'm going to have some of the assignments and data up on GitHub because I just think it's good that people know how to use it, and that's free, so you shouldn't have to pay for GitHub. And I've used GitHub for years and I've never paid for it.
Hey Steve, this is
Yeah.
Alex.
Yeah.
You touched on a great point, which is the user behavior analysis, especially in the cybersecurity space. What are some of the tools besides Mimikatz that we're going to be analyzing data on? The reason I ask is because right now I'm leading a project where I'm collecting, data sets and log analysis from pretty much a lot of different, sources. So I just wanted to hear your, thoughts, your thought process behind that, and how can we keep the cost minimum, right? Right now we run our infrastructure in AWS, so I'm just looking for, your experience in that area.
I think you can prototype things low cost, and really the question I think is twofold, right? A lot of times, and we'll cover these topics, right? The two ways that we train ML is either supervised or unsupervised. Now, supervised presumes that you have a labeled sample of the behavior that you want to use, which a lot of times you don't if you're just doing the analysis. So we'll talk about unsupervised learning and how we can do analysis and look for clustering things like authentication, who authenticates on a regular basis and who authenticates at weird times or from weird locations and stuff like that. So we can do some of that in anomaly detection. We'll cover some of the techniques for that. I have a couple examples. One is malware from PE files. Got some data from VirusTotal that we'll look at. And I also have kind of a cool thing that we're doing with DDoS log sample where we can look at the clustering and stuff in that. So we'll touch on some of this directly, but it all boils down to what do you think you're looking for, right? Are we looking for data exfiltration? But it all boils down generally to some kind of anomaly, right?
Yep.
It's like the Where's Waldo game, right? Which of these things is not like the other? And the techniques that we're going to start down the path on will help you with some of that identification. And we're doing all this with by and large free open source tools. We'll be using Scikit, which is a learning platform, but you can also use it to kickstart your analysis. We'll be showing some examples with like TensorFlow and image analysis and things like that. And this is all, stuff that is accessible to you. And we'll show you techniques on how to do this as part of this course, because I think that's the thing that's always been daunting. And I've been, wrapping my head around machine learning for the past probably 8 or 9 years. But it's always the question about who's going to write the code, who knows what the hyperparameters are, because if you've ever tried to write code and you have to go and you look at the function definition and you're scraping through Stack Overflow looking for examples, it's almost impossible, and you write really crappy stuff that doesn't scale and doesn't really do anything exciting. But what we're going to work through are techniques of how we can let our LLM of choice do the heavy lifting for us, and then we're the people that go through and make it work for us, right? There's a question that I get asked in the past, right? Is, well, if you're using an LLM to generate your code, aren't you worried about your data getting used by the LLM? Well, I don't need to do that. All I need to do is give the LLM my features, and maybe a small sample of the data, and it'll write the code, and then I run it on my own machine against my own stuff, and I don't have to worry about it getting sucked out into the LLM's you know, collective consciousness. So we'll talk about that as well. But there's ways, if you do it smart, you can leverage the power of the LLM to help you solve a question and not have it be vibe coding, where you sit down and say, well, I want to do this and I want to do that. If you ask the LLM good questions, pointed questions, and you're able to go through and troubleshoot and use it to help iterate, you can get a lot of cool stuff done. And we'll cover some of that. And by the end of this, I think you'll be surprised at what you can do.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah, you bet. Okay. Slowly working our way through that. Anybody else have questions? I still see there's some hands up.
Yes, please. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Well, I wanted to ask, would we be using, and to what extent, tools such as Splunk, Elasticsearch, Kibana, you know, those tools?
So we could use data from those. I know some of the stuff that we have used in the past have been out of like the Ember data set, which is from Elastic. And the last time I taught this class, we did use Elastic as a platform. But what I'm trying to do is keep this platform agnostic. But if you do have like specific questions about Splunk and Elastic, if those are platforms you're working with, we can certainly talk those through, because there are strategies that you can use because they have the capability to write code and things like that. I mean, we were writing code in Elastic last time, right? But we can use these same techniques that we're going to be talking about. How can we use the LLM to help us write queries and code that work in Splunk or Elastic to help get some of these same results? Does that answer your question?
Well, I was thinking that, I mean, for me, part of the attraction as well, there are certain rules where Splunk would become useful in this space of cybersecurity. So I wanted to get a bit more exposure to that.
Yep. So, we weren't going to talk about it specifically, but we can let me think about that, because that's one thing that that I got away from based on feedback last time, was having it be platform centric, and this is more concept centric. And I'll think about that, and I'll try and relate it back to things like Splunk and Elastic, because the techniques that we're going to be talking about here are still valid in the context of those platforms, right? But as opposed to writing Python that runs in a Jupyter notebook, you would have to run, you know, a Splunk query, or I can't remember what the Elastic query language is, but queries in that would do the similar thing. So so I'll weave that in, but I think that's good feedback, right? Is because a lot of times we do work in these other platforms, and what we're doing here is we're really taking the data from that platform and doing analysis on it, as opposed to doing analysis in the platform. Is that what you're asking about? Is how could I do some of this in the platform?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Valid question. I will look at what I've done, and we'll see where we can weave that in, and I'll try and relate that back, because that is a good question, and those are two platforms a lot of people use. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Smith.
Yep.
So I have a quick question. You use LLM. Can you break down that term for someone that doesn't know what an LLM is, and then kind of like give a little detail on it, please?
Yeah, it's a large language model. So ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude are all examples of LLMs and copilots. And I guess the simplest way to explain it is an LLM is like a giant if statement, and it parses out the question you ask it into a bunch of if terms and thinks about it, and it tries to return to you its best approximation of the answer, right? Using all the stuff that it's cataloged as at its disposal. So it's you know, I don't want to, this is not a smart aleck answer, right? It's large because it's indexed, right? All information that it has access to, right? So it's been trained on a bunch of information. And language means that it's, you know, a human can ask it questions, and it tries to take the 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 question you've asked it and parse it out through these giant if statements and return the most likely results in a way that makes sense in context. And then you know, model is just, we'll be talking about models as we're going through this course, but the model is basically it's the underlying algorithm and the code that runs it that makes the large language model work. So it's really the engine that drives it. Does that answer your question?
Yes. And my next question is, are all LLMs equal?
That's the third rail of AI right there. Are LLMs equal? Some are better than others at doing different things. There's a chart somebody posted that I'll find and share that talks about the difference in LLMs. Some are better for images, some are better for text, some are better for programming. I've used them all. I worked at Google and helped, you know, bring Gemini along from a little baby AI. And I used to use Gemini a lot, and then I started using Claude, and oh my gosh, Claude writes better code than Gemini did. So now I use Claude. But it's kind of preference and what you're doing with it. So they're not all equal. There is evidence that some do things better than others. A lot of people use more than one LLM depending on what they're doing. And I just have found lately that I've been using Claude just because I get such good code out of it. I just spend way too long with Gemini trying to get its code to where I needed it to be. So
Are we gonna
that's my
have
personal bias.
are we gonna have to pay for all these LLMs, like
No,
ChatGPT and
no,
um
they're free up to a point. It's I was talking about this earlier. You can just use them and you don't have to even sign in if you don't want to. It'll just give you an anonymous answer. But
mhm.
at some point, if you ask it enough questions, it for all intents and purposes puts you in timeout. It says you've used all your free tokens, come back in 2 hours kind of thing. So uh, I don't think
Because
you're.
I use Gemini, but I have the free version of Gemini
Yep,
that is attached to my Google Gmail. And the
yep,
reason why I'm asking is because um, there are people who say that paying premium for ChatGPT or premium for all these LLMs, that you get the best results when you pay premium for it. So the reason why I'm asking is, well, are you going to give us a list of the best, maybe top three that you will suggest that we stick to? The top three versions or top three LLMs that you have utilized and you trust that we
yep.
can invest in.
Yeah, and so I wouldn't say you would need three. You probably don't need more than one. And if you use Gemini, you can go ahead and use Gemini if you like. Um, and it's really up to you. Like I said, I try them all, and I've kind of landed on Claude, and I actually do pay for the premium because I do so much work with it that I got tired of getting put in timeout. So, but what I would say is try the free tier. And if in the event you do get to a point where you get put in timeout, you have to decide, does this impact what I'm doing for what we're doing in class? If you get to timeout, I would be surprised. But you know, it's not super expensive to do the premium version. Like I said, for Anaconda, it's $15 a month. I do Claude, it's $20 a month. I don't know how much ChatGPT and Gemini are, but I don't think they're much more expensive. But you don't need to do a bunch. You could probably do one and just find your favorite and use it. And if you run out of tokens and you can't deal with the timeout, then you might have to invest in the pro version.
Yeah, I think ChatGPT premium is almost $30, I think. I use the premium.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, for me personally, it was worth it to me to pay the subscription fee as opposed to waiting in time because I do enough stuff.
Yep. And I was also looking at the course content for the vulnerability management. Are we going to be using any open source tools or vendor like Qualys?
We'll be talking about different tools from different vendors and sort of the pros and cons of them, but it's not going to be any specific tool.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yep.
Will we be examining anything as far as like secure DevOps or how to move around that with AI?
In what context?
Like maybe support, and how to create like processes to enhance support for it in terms of incident management.
Yeah, we can talk through some of that. Let me see where could we put this? Maybe we can talk about it like in one of the like. I'll find a place for it. I think that's a good question, right? How because I think that's the big thing that I want to try and get across in this course is you have a killer resource available to you. And I think your question about automation is good, right? Because if you can automate processes and do that by leveraging an LLM, so you don't have to get a developer and write a spec and things like that, that's totally worth doing. So let me figure out where to put that, or maybe I can weave that through as well, because I didn't really think about that aspect of it, but we'll cover things that are related to it as we're going through some of the labs. So I'll try and add that maybe to one of the labs. I think I've got room in some of the labs where I don't have a huge pile of content. So let me try and weave that in. But that's a great question, Cal.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, you bet. Okay.
Yeah, I had a quick question about just about the class concept in general. When I signed so I don't know if you're gonna get to it later, but I just wanted to get out of the way. But like when I signed up for the class, the person who signed me up told me there was like the top 10% of class earners would receive like a something special, like a recommendation letter or something. Is that
yes.
Is that still there, or is that still
Yep.
okay?
Absolutely.
So what will that recommendation letter actually entail? And like, how would you just like, if it's like a close between like, multiple members within the top 10%, like how would you finally make the final determination who gets those letters and everything?
That's a good question. We did it last time. Last time when we did this, there was really kind of two groups. There was a group of students who went through and they had good attendance and they did all the assignments and turned them in, and that was kind of the clear demarcation. And I'll say it this way, is if it's a tie and everybody in the class does all the assignments and turns everything in and stuff like that, I'm not opposed if it's all things being equal. I think, you know, if you do the work, you should get a recommendation letter. Okay, so that'll be. I'm not. I'm not gonna. You know, and again, Paulina, plug your ears, right? If you do the work and you put in the effort, I will make sure that you get a recommendation letter.
Okay, thank you. So
Yeah,
clarify that.
yeah, that's kind of like me being easy on homework, right? I mean, I know everybody's working hard, and like I said, if I see you put in the effort and you're turning in the stuff, it's pretty clear to me who should get letters.
And the recommendation letter, that does that suffice, like with like references when
Yeah,
references are
it's pretty much a reference from me saying you were a student in my class and you showed exemplary effort, and I would recommend you as somebody that I would work with.
does your previous cohorts, previous courses you've taught, do the cohorts exchange numbers and can kind of like, I mean, I guess that's up to the individual, right?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
everybody, I think we all connected on LinkedIn. I was just thinking about that though. It's an interesting question. Maybe we need to start a LinkedIn group. You know, we could do that. And everybody that goes to the course, we can just have our own little LinkedIn group if you want. I like that. And then, you know, if you want to join our group, great. I'd love to have you. John, you have a question? All right, Duraj.
Yeah, hi. I had a question mostly on, so I'm a blue teamer for past 7 years, and I heavily rely on the Seams for doing my work. With the AI coming in and integrating with the products, do you think that Seam will be outdated or will get outdated?
Well,
Because
that's a good question. I think some of the stuff that Seams have done over years it's really you know, when we were doing this at Microsoft, everything that we got out of the product that turned into Sentinel, we were building ourselves, right? We're building our own detections and doing engineering and stuff like that. So I think that that they're going to evolve. And I think that AI is a layer on top of it, but it's like you know, we were talking about earlier, is if you just accept kind of what's part of the platform, you don't, and you look at it from the perspective of it being a black box, and you don't understand what's going on, you can't really tune it for your environment. So I think you know, the techniques and stuff that we're learning here, you're going to be able to go through and tune the AIs that are available in the Sims now to be more effective in your environment. You might be able to do analysis outside of it. Maybe there's analysis that you don't get natively. I know when we did this in Elastic Cloud last class, there were things you could do that were quote unquote AI driven, but it really, you didn't get down into the you know, underneath to figure out what was really going on, right? So so what we're going to try is think about it this way: is you have log data and you have event data and all that stuff goes into your log sync into your sim. Your sim ingests that, it processes it, and it generates detections and alerts, right, using some type of logic, right, either atomic detections or behavioral analytics and stuff like that. What we're going to do is we're going to pick apart what the sim is doing, and it's using these same machine learning techniques and models, and we're going to learn how it actually does it. So we're going to you know, analyze a DDoS. We're going to see what the different algorithms return as far as results, right? How do you classify different things? We have a malware example that's the Capstone project that involves a bunch of different things about ingesting data, you know, cleaning data, processing it, selecting and training a model, displaying results. So all that stuff is going to be useful, right? Because if you have a sample of data, so for instance, how do you know if you have an event that your detections match how many events actually come in, right? You can do some of that analysis. You can label results. We're going to show an example where I'll actually export targets that have potential malware on them and things like that. I mean, this is all stuff you could probably get out of your sim, but how is your sim doing it? And how can you tweak your sim to get the best results, right? What's the precision and recall and F1 score? How accurate are those algorithms? Does your sim give you that information? What does that mean when it's telling you that, right? So this is knowledge that is going to give you the power to go back and look at the technology stack that you already have and understand it and make it do things better for you and, you know, have different discussions.
So it will still be sitting on top of a log aggregator, from what I'm understanding, right? The AI
Yeah.
still would sit, okay.
Yep, absolutely. And that's the you know, some of these examples we'll do are actually log samples that I pulled down from the internet, right? There's different libraries, and I'll give you locations where they're at in GitHub, where you can download live logs of attacks and things like that, and we're using those, like PCAPs for DDoS and what have you. So, but you're right, it is, you know, without that log aggregator, that's where we get the information that we do the analysis on. And then, you know, although it's out of the scope of this course, you can take the results of your investigation and operationalize it back in that platform.
Okay.
Right? All right.
So I think that, like, having said that, would that jack up the price of these SIEM vendors going forward, because they will be adopting more of AI technology into their log aggregation platform?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think they're going to try and charge more and say that they've got some AI in it, right? But you know, it's back to the example from earlier, right? What did we get from IDS, right? We got pain and suffering because we have a bunch of alerts that come through because it's not tuned for our environment. Same thing with vulnerability management. I was in on vulnerability management back in the early days, and it's like, what is high confidence here and what's not, right? You have a bunch of things that are possibly wrong on my machine, but do I even care, right? So you have to be able to tune it. You know, it's like code scanning today, right? If you have, you know, Veritas or something, you know, scanning code, and it's sending a bunch of results back. Are they any good, right? That's what we're trying to get away from it and use actually the results of being able to do this analysis with the ML to tune those platforms better, right? So what if we didn't get a bunch of garbage all the time from some of the platforms, right? What if we were able to distill that down and focus only on things that were really important, right? What if we could look at data across our fleet and come and figure out, you know, where is our biggest weak point as far as misconfigurations and things like that? There's a whole bunch of stuff that we can do using these techniques, and that's what we're trying to open people's eyes to, is how do we do this, and then how do we leverage things like LLMs to help us do the investigation and stuff, instead of, you know I've sat in the past and you're like, I need to get somebody to get me data, and then I need to get somebody to write me code, and then I need to get somebody that knows about this platform to do this. And now hopefully we can orchestrate that same activity, but be self-sufficient, so we don't have to rely and wait for all those people, right? And that's what I say when I think the LLMs and AI is democratizing a lot of this stuff, because there's a bunch of stuff that if you don't need to know how to do it and you can get the result, then it makes your life a heck of a lot easier. Because I mean, you're going to see some stuff in here and go, wow, that's pretty impressive, but it's, I know the concepts and I can work the LLMs and hack through the code and make stuff work. And that's what I'm trying to, impart on people here is it's not it's not an insurmountable obstacle just because you can't code to be able to get results, right? You just got to be able to use the resources at your disposal. And instead of it being Stack Overflow, it's, your favorite LLM.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. John, your question about the assignment, if you complete it early, if you want to improve it, sure, I'm totally cool with that, right? Fact is, if there's any assignment and I give it back and I have feedback and you want to submit it again, I'll take it. How about that? Plug your ears, Paulina. You didn't hear that. So I mean, I'm doing this for you. You guys are paying good money and I appreciate your trust. And I want to make sure that you get the most out of this, right? I would not be doing this course if it wasn't for you. I appreciate that. And I want to make sure you get every last cent of value out of this that you can possibly get. So, we're in it together. All right. Okay, we're at time. What else?
Can you repeat what you said you'll be doing for us?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Can you repeat the last statement? You said you were doing something for us.
Oh, I guess what I'm saying is this is your class. I'm here for you. If I will give you an opportunity if I grade an assignment and there's something that you want to redo and resubmit, I'm totally cool doing that. And like I said, if you put in the effort, I will accept it and I'll make sure that you get credit for it. So it's
How long does each assignment, how long does it take? Are we going to be
I try and make it something that you can do in an hour-ish. And then for the capstone project, we're going to be doing different parts of it as we're doing the homework assignments. So there's not like a big project you have to do at the end. We'll be doing it as we go along.
Will you be providing like a list of, are we gonna go through LinkedIn and go through a list of jobs that you think we can do? Or, well, based on assuming people have different security experiences, will you go through or do you have like interview questions and answers that you can provide? Or
I will show you some techniques about how you can use an LLM to ace an interview and find a job. How about that?
thank you. It's critical these days. The job market is, even as someone with cybersecurity background, the job market with everything going on in the government, things happen.
It's
We're trying to get back. We're trying to get back into the workforce.
It's brutal. So yeah, I want to help you position yourself in the best light possible to be able to use new tools to solve problems, right? And I think that's the differentiator. I have a lot of friends in the industry, and they said that there's two kinds of people that are going to be in the industry: people that use LLM and AI, and people that are unemployed. So I want to make people that use AI and LLM, right? Even if you can have a conversation about it, that puts you in a better light, right? But if you can tell somebody else like, oh, I know how to do this and that and this basic stuff, and I can come in and I can, do more analysis and things like that because I know how to use these tools. I mean, it used to be, what was the tool you used? Excel, right? And then you got the Sims came along and they have analysis capabilities and you can use SQL and stuff like that. But a lot of that's not accessible, but now it is. That's the thing, right? Is how do you take that knowledge that you already have in cybersecurity and turbocharge it by using the tools at your disposal to get answers, right? And that's where things are going. That was the big push at Amazon before I left, right? Is everything is getting AI-ified, right? That's going to be the cut line for people that get fired from Amazon and people that have a job at Amazon is, how well do you use AI? And they came right out, the CEO came right out and said that. So, and I know that he's not the only one, but the thing is, AI does not replace people, right? You still need a person to tell AI what to do and make sure it's doing the right thing. And that's what I hopefully people take away from this course is how can we do that, right? How can we supercharge, turbocharge what we know using the tools at our disposal, and AI is one of them, to help get those kind of results. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
All right, cool. All right. Anything else? I told you
I
we
have a
were
question.
on time. Didn't I say we weren't going to end on time?
I have a question.
Yeah,
Do I need any math background like calculus or linear algebra, multivariable calculus for this
No.
course?
No. I mean, it really what this is all about. This is about the bell curve. This is about statistics. This is about finding outliers, right? And you have to have just a basic understanding of that so that some of the stuff is explainable, but there's not going to be a lot of heavy math. There's a bunch of scary stuff that we'll talk about, but that's why we have an LLM to help us solve those problems, right?
So I guess you were at Kuiper Security, right? I mean, I'm not sure if you're
Yes.
still. I mean, I work for Amazon Kuiper Government Solutions.
Yep.
I was just wondering how I can relate this and apply this to Kuiper satellite network.
We should have a offline chat just between the two of us.
Sure. Okay.
So I have some opinions.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
You have on the course outline that on the curriculum, you have guest speakers that will be coming to speak with us. Are those guest speakers like workers or employees at software companies,
Yeah,
technology consulting companies that they can
Yes.
network with us?
Yep. That's what I'm working towards is getting people who are all in the industry to come and be guest speakers. So we'll definitely have some industry people that you can network with. And again, please connect with me on LinkedIn, and I am willing to make introductions between people in my network. So I'm happy to help point you in the right direction if there's people that I know that could help you out. Okay. Anything else? Olufemi?
Hi, Steven. This is Olufemi. So, good presentation. I've been listening, and I'm kind of curious about. So the topic, the focus of this training is AI-aided cybersecurity. I'm keen about security because I'm actually like a researcher at doctorate level, looking into the new security the security framework Zero Trust. So how does AI comes into like the new concept Zero Trust? Because all I see, or most of the things we've been talking about is actually more focused on ML and AI. So I was looking for where the intersection of, where we're gonna dive deep into security for what it is, and now see how we bring in
Yep.
AI to aid the security. I was looking at maybe we're gonna be having hands-on labs, the network designs, or that could actually improve our cyberspace.
Yeah, all the stuff that we work on, it's sort of limited in scope just because of the time that we have. But this will be stuff that you can take back. One thing that is interesting that has been at the last 3 large cloud companies I've been at is that they use a lot of graph data to validate zero trust. And we can have a discussion about that as in some of the sessions. But basically, the enemy of zero trust is trust, right? Is anytime that you grant anybody access, you are weakening your zero trust posture. And what happens a lot, especially with identity and access management, is you get inherited permissions and principles that allow people to elevate beyond what you think they should be able to. And we can talk about some of that as we go along because, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, we all had a huge, Neo4j database where we used graphs to look for weaknesses in our zero trust architecture. So we'll talk about some of that as we're going along. And I'll try. I have a demo I used last time. I'll try and resurrect it, but it's basically how to use like Graphistry, like PyGraphistry data to do an access graph based on. It's like Bloodhound. Are you familiar with Bloodhound?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that Bloodhound.
Yeah, yeah. So it's Bloodhound, right? But
Yeah.
that's where it's at. If you got zero trust, you should be doing something Bloodhound-ish. If you got AD, Bloodhound's awesome.
Okay, I'll be looking forward to that because it's actually new in this.
Yep, it's cool stuff. All right. Anything else? Well, I'm looking forward to getting started next week. I posted there's like the first homework before the first homework kind of thing in the resources chat. If you want to get started on that, getting either your machine set up or getting logged into Anaconda, that might take a little extra. So unless you're familiar with Python and Jupyter notebooks and that kind of stuff, start on it now and I can help you out if you get stuck. All right, well, that's all I got. And if you have positive comments, send them to me. If you have problems, ask Paulina, right? All right. Yeah, Neo4j, absolutely, Alex. All right. That's all I got. Paulina, you have anything?
Sorry, I was muted. No, everything's good. Thank you for this amazing intro.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday.